Al Kadosh, Boker Or, Shavua Tov, Masechet, Bava Kamma daf 45A1. We're just going to start on the Mishnah again, on Mem Daled Amud Bet. We already did this Mishnah, but we're going to do it again. The Mishnah says, Shor Shu Yotze Lisakel. Imagine you have a shore which is going out to be stoned. Vigdishu Be'alav, and the owners came and they made it Ekdesh, they've consecrated it to the Bet HaMikdash. Eno Mugdash, it's not going to be consecrated. Shechato, if they slaughtered it after it was Nigmar Adin, after the verdict was given, right? That obviously that they had to kill it, that you had to do sekilah to it. Besaro asur, the flesh is going to be asur bana. Now, if it was that before the Gmar Din, right? They already went and they consecrated mugdash. It's going to be mugdash. Now, if they came and they did shechita to it, besaro mutar, the flesh is going to be mutar. Says the Gemara, the Mishnah, mesaro l'shomer chinam shoel nose sachar u'socher. If they gave it over to a shomer chinam shoel nose sachar or socher, so in all these cases where they gave it over, he comes and he says, okay, nichnesu tachat ha'be'alim, they go instead of the ba'alim, which means they are the chayav nezek instead of these ba'alim, right? Muad meshalem nezek shalem, and therefore muad is going to pay nezek shalem, right? V'tam meshalem chetzi nezek, and a tam is going to pay chetzi nezek. Okay, fine. That was a Mishnah. Says the Gemara. Gemara says, Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in a Braita, Shor shehemit, an ox that comes and kills. Ad shelo nigmar dino. If it was still not the nigmar din, remember that in order for a shor to be chayav mita, you have to have a gmar din, you have to have a verdict. Meaning you don't just say automatically, he gets killed. You have to take it to a betin, you have to testify, then there has to be a gmar din. So it says over here, you have an ox that killed a human being. Ad shelo nigmar dino, until the gmar din, mecharo, if he sells it, machur, it's going to be sold. Higdisho, if he made it into ekdesh, mugdash, it's going to be mugdash. Shechato, if it's going to be that they slaughtered it, besaro mutar, the flesh is going to be mutar, right? Bana. Hechziro, right? Hechziro hashomer levet be'alav. If right now he put it back to the house of the baalim, which means he gave it back to the house of the owners, muhzar, it's considered, right, that he gave it back. Meaning, imagine right now I borrowed it, or I rented it, or whatever it is, and now I gave it back. So once I give it back, that's it, I'm patur. But once there's a gmar din, all these cases was before the gmar din. That he sold it, that he made it into ekdesh, he slaughtered it, he gave it back. All these things is before the gmar din. Once it's already the gmar din, mecharo eno machur. You sold it, it's nothing. Higdisho eno mugdash. You consecrated it, it's nothing. It's not a good consecration. Shechato, if you slaughtered it, besaro asur, you're not allowed to benefit from it. Hechziro shomer lebebalav, if the shomer gave it back to the baalim, eno muchsar, it's not considered that he gave it back. Because obviously there's nothing, he gave back a dead animal basically. What did he do? He gave back nothing. Rabbi Yaakov argues and he says, Af mishnigmar dino, even after the gmar din, hechziro hashomer lebalav, muchzar. Even if he did give it back to the baalim, it's considered that he gave it back. So says the Gemara, Lema be'akam ipalgeh. Why don't we just say that this is the argument between Rabbi Yaakov and Chachamim? Remember, Rabbi Yaakov was after the Tanna Kamma. The Tanna Kamma, which is the Chachamim, they came and they give you the first difference between Nigmar Din and not Nigmar Din. All of a sudden, Rabbi Yaakov comes and he says, only the last case, that the Shomrim come and they give it back. The Shomrim are any type of, whether it's the borrower, the renter, the renter, the one that paid custodian or unpaid custodian, any of these people that he give it back, that's the only nekuda, that's the only point that Rabbi Yaakov argues on the Tanna Kamma. So says the Gemara, why don't we just say that this is the machloka between them? That the rabbis hold, that we cannot say in anything which is a surbana. Remember that a shor which gores and is chayav mitas, chayav skila, you're not allowed to benefit from it. It's a surbana. So if you're not allowed to benefit from it, why don't we just say that the machloka between them is that the rabbis hold that anything which is a surbana, I cannot come and say, this is yours. Yours is right in front of you. You cannot say that. That's according to Shtat Chachamim. And Rabbi Yaakov holds, right, that yes, so it comes out that the entire machloka between them is you have a case where something is prohibited in front of you, and what we're trying to say is this is yours. Can you say that or not? According to Chachamim, no, and according to Rabbi Yaakov, yes. So says the Gemara, Amar Rabba Kamma daf says, the Chule Alma, according to everybody, Omrim b'Yisurei Hana'ah, we say by Yisurei Hana'ah, Harei Shelcha Lefanecha. Whatever, here it is. You could say that by Yisurei Hana'ah. You're allowed to say that. Here, this is yours. Din ken, but if so, Niflog Linyan Chametz bePesach. Why don't we also argue to do is somebody steals Chametz before Pesach, and then he comes and he gives it back after Pesach.
Footnote has a big thing on that.
You don't need to explain. Very, very simple, right, Richard? Right now, Chametz on Pesach, is it a subana?
Yes.
Okay, so imagine right now a guy comes and he steals from you Chametz before Pesach.
Okay.
Comes Pesach, now it's a subana, you're not allowed to benefit from it. And right after Pesach, come and say, here, Richard, take it.
I still feel I feel bad here. Take it.
Here, take it. So now 1 second, but you already know that it's a subana, which means that kilu, I'm giving you something.
It's like worthless.
It's worthless.
זה גם חמץ שעבר עליו בפסח.
Exactly. No, אבל חוץ מזה, זה נאסר בהנאה. Yeah, he comes and he says, so what is... Exactly. So he comes and he says, right? So he comes and he says like this. He says, according to the Chachamim, right? The Chachamim, they come and they say, in such a case, what's worthless? So you have to give money. Well, you're going to start giving back the produce? The produce anyway, you're going to have to throw it in the garbage? What's it going to help? Okay? So therefore, he comes and he says, if so, we should have actually brought this case then. Right? That's what we should have done. So says the Gemara, Ella, but rather Hacha, in this case, the machloka between them is, do we do Gemar Din when it's not in front of him? That's the question. Let's explain. Gemar Din is a verdict. Do we give the verdict if it's not in front of him? Let's see. To Rabbanan Savri, because the rabbis actually come and they hold, En Gomrin Dino Shel Shor Ela Befanav. Right? We're not going to come and do Gemar Din unless the short is right there. The short itself has to be there.
Why does the short
right?
to be there? The owner's got to be there.
1 second. Yeah, this is the shita. The Gemara is going to explain why. Okay? The Elmaleh, because the Baalim could tell the Shomer, right? If you would have given him back to me, I would have sent it off to the Agam, which means I would have sent it off to the swamp, and then you wouldn't have been able to bring it here. And therefore, I would have done it in a case where you can't find it, basically. Right? But now that you gave my short in a hands that I cannot do anything with it, right? Which means you brought the short to Bedin. And once you brought the short to Bedin, now it's going to be Nigmar Din. So it comes out that you were the one that damaged me with your own hands. So therefore, according to that, that's why the rabbis hold that the shomer and the shomrim, they're going to be chayav. Why?
Good help.
Thank you. Okay. Rabbi Yaakov holds Gomrin Dino Shel Shor Shelo B'fanav. No, you could do a Gemar Din, even though if it was not going to be Shelo B'fanav, even if it was not going to be in front of them. The Elmaleh, because the Shomer could tell the Baalim, sof, at the end of the day, Migmar Havu Gamre Ledina. At the end of the day, they could come and say, 1 second, right? What's going on? At the end of the day, right, they could have said, right, they would have been Gomer, right? That means he's basically saying this. If you wouldn't have brought the shore to the, how do you call this? If you would have brought the shore to the, if you wouldn't have brought the shore to the Bedin, right? They would have still done it. Why? Because according to him, anyway, you don't need the shore there. So if you don't need the shore there, that's Rabbi Yaakov. Right, Rabbi Yaakov. Right, Rabbi Yaakov says this. So therefore, if you hold that you don't need the shore to be there in order to have the Gemar Din, so then you didn't do anything. You're the showman. You didn't do anything. Whether that you would have brought it or not brought it, doesn't matter. You would have done Gemar Din with Gamarnu. So for you didn't do anything with your hands. So now we have to understand, and this is what Richard was asking, what's the reasoning why? What's the machloka between them exactly? Do you need the shore to be there or not to be there? What's going on exactly? So Ma'itama Rabbanan, what's the reasoning of the Rabbanan? It says, Hashor Yisakel v'gam be'alav yumat. It says in the Pasuk, there's a Pasuk, yeah, Mishpatim, Parashat Mishpatim. It says over there, we're making a Hekesh. Yeah, for those that like Hekesh. Yeah, so he comes and he says like this, Hashor Yisakel, right, the shore gets skila, v'gam be'alav yumat. What does that mean? It has to be like Mitat Be'alim. So too is Mitat Hashor. What does that mean? When you come and you're going to judge the owners, right? Ma be'alim bifnehem. If you come and you judge a person to kill him, does he have to be there? Obviously. You cannot judge a person if he's not present, right? There has to be an act of presence. That's be in front of his face.
He has the right to confront his accuser.
100%. He has to be there.
But an ox.
Right? So he says, just like the mitat be'alim, so too is mitat ashor. Which means we're making a juxtaposition, a proximity. The fact that it says, Hashor yisakel v'gam be'alav yumat, Just like the Be'alim, the owners, they have to be there. If you're going to come and tell them that you're going to be chayav, so too the exact same halacha would apply to the shore, obviously, right? Al shore befanav. Rabbi Yaakov, and according to Rabbi Yaakov, bishlama be'alim. I understand the be'alim. Yeah, he comes and he says, right? Benet ta'ananinu. What does it mean, benet ta'ananinu? He comes and he says, right? When we're talking about now benet ta'ananinu, it means maybe they have a ta'ana to be mizakeh themselves bedin. El shor bar ta'anata. But he says what? The shore. He says he has a ta'ana. What's it going to help now in front of a bedin? B'shat dino. What's it going to help exactly? Yeah. So because of this, basically, that we're actually coming in and saying, right? I understand the human being. A human being could answer up for himself
and make a defense.
He could defend. He could do. What's a shore going to do? Shore is going to do. I don't know what. I don't know what the sound of the shore. Well, what's he going to do? So therefore, what do you do? What are you talking about? So therefore, Yaakov says, I don't understand what's going on. So because of that, that is a machloket between them. So according to this, it comes out that since there's a machloket, do you need them to be there b'shat kamar din or not? According to Rabbi Yaakov, it doesn't matter whether the shomer came and he gave it to you afterwards or not, but anyway, right, it would have been a gamar din. We don't care about that. It doesn't matter, right? But according to the other opinion, which is Rabbanan, right, you need the shore to be there. So the fact that you need the shore to be there, the fact that you brought the shore to the bedin, you were the damager. Okay? Until here we're clear. Fine. 2 dots. Okay? You gave it to one of the 4, right, watchmen, right? Remember, there's always the borrower, the renter, the paid custodian, and the unpaid custodian. Okay? Tanu Rabbanan, we learned to the Braita. These 4 people, they come instead of the Be'alim. These are the 4. If they went and they killed a human being when they were in the possession of these people, if they're tamin, neheragin, ufturim nekofer. Remember, when a shor kills, he's always chayav mita. The only difference is going to be between a tam and muad. Does he pay kofer or not? A tam does not pay kofer, and muad pays kofer. So he says here, neheragin, right? They are going to be killed, and they're going to be patu from kofer. Muadin, if it was muad, neheragin, they're going to be killed. They pay kofer. Now they're obligated to pay back. They're obligated, one second, they're obligated to pay back the shore, the value of the shore, to the Ba'alim, except for a shomer chinam. Because a shomer chinam is patur, right, from... So says the Gemara Amri, so they said in the yeshiva, Hechidami, what was the case exactly? If the shomer chinam actually watched over this shore, so therefore, one second, if that's what we're talking about, so therefore, they should all be patur, even the shomer sachar, except for the shoel, because the shoel, a borrower, is chayav even in onsin, even in the force majeure, right? Even in onsin, in force majeure. But other than the shoel, everybody should have been patur.
If they did a proper guarding.
If they did a proper guarding. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're asking. And if you're going to tell me that they didn't watch it properly, so afilu shomer chinam nechayev. So therefore, even the shomer chinam, the unpaid custodian, should also be chayav. Why? Because then that's considered like negligent, pshia. And a shomer chinam is chayav in negligence. So what was the case? Like at the end of the day, we have to compare apples to apples. Or we cannot be talking about no. The shomer chinam, he did a good watching, and everybody else was no. Man, they're all the same case. So if they all watched properly, so everybody should be chayav except for the borrower, right? The shoel. And if they did not watch properly, so everybody should be. Sorry, everyone should be patur except for the borrower. And if they did not watch properly, so everyone should be chayav. Right, except for everyone should be chayav, even the shomer chinam, but he was a pshia. Right, at the end of the day, he was negligent. So what's going on then? So Amri, they said, what are we dealing with? Did not today. They did watch them, but they watched them a shmira pechuta. That means they watched them like a minimal amount. Velo natre shmira meula, but they didn't watch it a good. Meaning, he watched it, but you know how it is. Yeah, I watch it, and he shomer. Yeah, what does that mean? Shomer chinam, kalta lo shmirato. A shomer chinam is going to be yotzei chovah. He's going to fulfill his obligation even with this minimal shmira. But all the rest, lo kalta shmiratan, they are still obligated to watch more. Meaning like this, here we're making a difference between what type of a watching over do you need. Yeah, for example, I could come in and say I'm watching over Richard. Why? I'm looking at him. I'm seeing what he's doing. And if he goes overboard, I could let him know. Yeah. But sometimes you need a leash. sometimes you need a little bit more, right? So therefore, in the shomer chinam, which is an unpaid custodian, I could get away with a shmira pechuta, with a low-level type of a shmira, of a protection, and I'm already yitzei chuba. That's a shomer chinam.
He gives an example here. He says you put the thing behind a locked door that can withstand a normal wind. And all of a sudden comes an
a non-normal wind, like right now what's happening in Florida, and boom, and it just takes it out, right? Unless you're going to say in Florida it's normal, right? But whatever. But I'm saying meaning that, that's something, right? But that's a shomer chinam. Everybody else, they need to do shmira meula. They need a better type of shmira. They can't just come and no, I put a thing that's normal. No.
The renter is that high?
Yes, all of them are high except for shomer chinam. Because you have to remember, the renter at the end of the day, he's instead of the owners, right? He's a renter. So that's the concept, okay? Fine. So says the Gemara, Amri, we're going to say Keman. So who's this going like? If you're going to tell me now that this is going like the Shitav Rabbi Meir, Memhe Bet 45b, the Amar, that he's going to tell you that the Socher, right? I think you cheated, Richard. That the renter is like a Shomer Chinam Dami. Litni, so then you should have put them both together. Meaning, Richard wanted to say, 1 second, but why don't you say that the renter is like the unpaid custodian? Because the unpaid custodian is doing you a favor. He's watching over your property for free. The renter is paying you for your property, to use your property. He's a renter, he's a shoel. So therefore, he's coming and saying, so I would have said that maybe they're both on the same par, on the same level, right? That I'm saying, listen, they should have the same level of shmirah, right? And that's the shita of Rabbi Meir. So therefore, it should be the same halakha according to both of them. V'yi Rabbi Yehuda, now if you're going to tell me some Yehuda, that he says that the socher is like a noseh sachar, like a shomer sachar, right? Dami. So therefore, right, it actually makes sense why the Braita didn't say anything to do with shomer chinam. So nitni chutz mi shomer chinam v'kulan ki b'muadim pturin yan kofer. We should have said all the cases would have been that except for a shomer chinam. And then we would have said, and all the other shomrim are going to be muadim, pturim, to do with kofir. He comes and he says, why are they going to be pturim, right? Linyan the kofir. He comes and he says, but if we're talking about now that they actually did some type of a shmirah, right? Basically, there's a machloka between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir. One of them is to do with what's halacha of a socher. Is a socher like a shomer chinam, or is a socher like a shomer sachar? Okay, that's going to be number one. And the Braita is saying that it's not going to be like Rabbi Meir and also not like Rabbi Yehuda. That's the question that we're asking now. It's not like either one. Like there's a problem here. Okay, because according to Rabbi Meir, it makes sense. Why not? Because he comes and he said the shor muad, they're going to pay the kofir. But according to him, he says even a muad that needs a shmira meula, so therefore he has to pay kofir. But he comes and he says, but a shomer chinam that is going to be patur from the dmei ashor, right? He comes and he says the socher is like a shomer chinam, so it doesn't make sense. But mitzad sheni, Rabbi Yehuda, that he says that it's the same thing, that a socher is like the rest of them, right? So he has a question, 1 second. So why is it that he has to pay kofir, even on shmira pechuta? He shouldn't pay kofir. So basically, you have a question mitzad the kofir, and you have a question mitzad the nezek, mitzad the damages. Okay, mitzad the damages, right? We have a question. It's not like Rabbi Meir. Why? Because according to Rabbi Meir, he said that a renter, right, is like a unpaid custodian. So I understand everything about the kofir, but why did you say that the renter has to pay money to the owner? Why does he have to pay money to the owner? It doesn't make sense. The renter should be like the unpaid custodian. And if you're going like Rabbi Yehuda, so right, so the Rabbi Yehuda says, no, that the renter is like all the other ones, and only Shomer Chinam is the only one, the unpaid custodian is the only one on his own. So I understand the damages part. But then why did you say that he has to pay, right, that he has to pay kofir? So there's a problem there. So it's not like Rabbi Meir, and it's not like Rabbi Yehuda. What's going on? So answers the Gemara, Amar Rav Huna bar Chinana, says Rav Huna bar Chinana, Hamani, right? Who is this exactly? Rabbi Eliezer. This is Shitat Rabbi Eliezer. The Amar that he comes and he says, En lo shmira ela sakin. He comes and he says, there's no shmira for the shor muad, ela sakin, only the knife, which means
you gotta
right,
kill it.
You have to kill it. That's the only way to stop it, right? That's the only way to stop it from actually doing damages. So according to him, even shmira meula, which means even the best type of shmira is not good enough. Yeah, nothing. Why? Listen, this guy is a habitual scorer. There's nothing that's going to save it. You have to actually, ulinyan socher, not to do with the socher, Sava like Rabbi Yehuda, he holds like Rabbi Yehuda. The Amar that he says, socher, כנושא שכר דמי. That the socher, right, is like a nose sachar. Meaning, that means basically what's happening is that we are going like Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer comes and he's actually, when he's speaking about the entire machloka between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, he holds mitzad one halacha that there's no such thing as a shmira meula by a muad. The only type of shmira meula that you can have by muad is a knife. That's the only way. Right, you have to get rid of it. You cannot. This is animal. It's a menace to society.
It's like having a pit bull. You can't own it.
Exactly. Now, to do with the socher, though, he holds like Rabbi Yehuda, that he holds that a socher is like a shomer sachar. Meaning not like Rabbi Meir, that he holds that the renter is like an unpaid custodian. He holds like Rabbi Yehuda, that a renter is like a paid custodian. Okay? That's one answer. So basically, it's like Rabbi Eliezer. It's not Rabbi Yehuda, it's not Rabbi Meir. It's Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer holds in one halacha even stricter than all of them. And in another halacha, he holds like Rabbi Yehuda. Chazak Baruch. Answer number one. Answer number two. Abaye Amar. Abaye comes and he says, Leolam Rabbi Meir. Really, by we're going like Rabbi Meir. But just like Rabbi Baravua taught, Socher keitza meshalem. How does the socher pay? Rabbi Meir says, Kishomer sachar, like a shomer sachar. Rabbi Yehuda omer, Kishomer chinam. Right, like a shomer chinam, which means this. We actually hold that really be'emet a shon muad needs a very good shmirah, which that was the shita of Rabbi Meir. Okay, and therefore that's why he says if you did a shmirah pechuda, you have to pay the kofer and so on and so forth. Right, but now 1 second. But we had a question on Rabbi Meir, right? That our right could not be like Rabbi Meir, because we said that according to Rabbi Meir, a renter is like an unpaid custodian, and here it's not saying that. So he comes and he says, but now we have to actually switch it. Like the Rabbi, we'll reverse it. So what are we switching? We're reversing, and we're saying that really Be'emet, Rabbi Meir is the one that holds that it's like a shomer sachar. It's a paid custodian. And Rabbi Yehuda is the one that said it's an unpaid custodian. So now it actually makes sense. Because now you don't have a question against that. That means Arba is 100% like Rabbi Meir. Why? It's only a shomer chinam that's different. A shomer chinam is the only one that's different. Fine. Next, Amar Rabbi Elazar. Says Rabbi Elazar. Okay, so there were two answers how to answer up. Who was this Braita, right, that said this? Okay, this Braita. Fine. Next, Amar Rabbi Elazar. Says Rabbi Elazar. Masar shoro le-shomer chinam. Imagine you gave your ox to an unpaid custodian, to a shomer chinam. The zik and he damages, so you're going to be chayav and paying up. Huzak, if he was damaged, patur. So that means what happens is that even though you were negligent, and because of your negligence, the shore got damaged. Not that it damaged somebody else. It got damaged. This unpaid custodian, right, is going to be patur from paying the owners.
It doesn't talk about...
Says the Gemara, what's the case?
What's the case?
Amri, they said, hey, what's the case? If he accepted upon himself shmirat nizakav, right? Which means this, when I come and I give you something to watch over, if you accept upon yourself that, listen, you're going to take care of it and if something happens, you're obligated. So therefore, even if it was zak, even if it was damaged, you should also pay. And let's say you didn't accept upon yourself anything that happened. So even if right now it damaged somebody else, you should also be patur then. Because at the end of the day, you did not accept upon yourself responsibility for it. It's like I come in and say, can you watch this? Say, yeah, but I don't accept responsibility.
You said that to me?
100%.
To my face?
100%.
Which I appreciated.
100%. Yeah.
Usually, shomer chinam, I do you a favor.
No, exactly. No. But many times,
You have to say it out.
many times when you spell it out, so they understand. Now, why? Because you don't know how many times something happens and all of a sudden it comes after you. And you're saying, listen, I apologize, but this is what I have to say, which means I have to say there is no liabilities. I have to say, I'm telling you, listen, why? Because if not, all of a sudden, there could be ill feelings, then you have to start going to bed, you have to start, no. From the beginning, you want bechavod, I want to do my true heart, but this is what's going on. You understand? Like this, why? Because many times, you know what happens, you put things in luggage, you put things somewhere, and all of a sudden things disappear. You know how it is, they disappear, right? How do they disappear, right? All the, but okay, they disappear. So you have to spell it out. So he answers, Amar Rava. So what is the case then? Rava answers, Lolam, really be'emet shekibel alav shmirat nezakav, right? Really be'emet, you did accept upon yourself liabilities. Ve'hacha ma'eskin, but what are we dealing with? Kegon sheikibo shunagchan. You knew that the animal was an agchan, was normal to gore. So therefore, when you went and you accepted upon yourself liabilities, you accepted upon yourself that it's not going to go and gore other ones. But you never thought that somebody was going to come and gore it. Meaning like this, it's true, you did accept upon yourself responsibilities. But what does it mean, the liabilities? The liabilities is that since you already know that this shore is like a gore, so you come and say, okay, I'm going to make sure that this shore does not gore anybody else.
Time up good.
Right? Exactly. But you never thought in your wildest dreams that somebody else was going to come and gore it. Right? Because you knew that this shore was goring others, not that others gore it. So therefore, you accepted upon yourself the responsibility that it doesn't gore other people, but not that other people are going to gore it. And therefore, if it gores other people, you're going to be chayav. But if it gores it, you're going to be patur. Mishnah. Until here we're clear. Okay. Mishnah. Okay, halfway down. Says the Mishnah, if you tied it up, how do you translate the
rain?
With the reins.
Leather rein.
With the leather reins. Or you locked it up. You locked it up in a proper way, which means, right, in these two cases, right, again, this is what we were talking about before about the door, right, that was able to withstand the normal wind. So in these both cases, this is called shmira pechuta, meaning it's a low-level type of a security clearance. Meaning you didn't do you didn't watch it over like I don't know what, but you did do something. And it goes out in the damages. Doesn't matter whether it's a tam or a muad, it's going to be chayav. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says, tam, you're going to be chayav. And muad, you're going to be patur. Okay? So one more time. You have the first shita, which is Tana Kama, which is Rabbi Meir, right? That's Rabbi Meir. He comes and he says, doesn't matter whether it's tam or muad, you're going to be chayav. Okay? And according to Rabbi Yehuda, you're going to be patur.
Should be the other way around with Yehuda. Why is he saying that?
Why? Rabbi Yehuda comes and he says, whether a tam you're going to be chayav, and you're saying like, why is it that a tam you're going to be chayav and a muad you're going to be patur?
Yeah.
1 second. Shneimar, but it says in pasuk, v'lo yishmerenu be'alav. What does it mean? V'lo yishmerenu be'alav shalom yishalem. It means that v'shamur uzeh. At the end of the day, when are you obligated to pay? You're only obligated to pay when you didn't watch it. Here, you watched it. At the end of the day, there was a watching done. So ever since you watched it, that's it. Rabbi Eliezer comes and he says, En lo shmira la sakin. I apologize. This is the Rabbi Eliezer that we just learned 2 minutes ago, right? That he said, no, the only way to watch over this animal is with a knife. That's the only way to watch over this muad. Why? You think, this is an animal that's a bitch gore, so there's nothing what to do with it. Okay? Fine. So now, that's the Gemara. We're going to now try to analyze this Mishnah. Let's try to decipher the Mishnah bit by bit. My time Rabbi Yehuda. What's the reasoning why, according to what's the reasoning why, according to Shitat Rabbi Meir, that we said that a tam and a muad, they need, right? What does that mean? That how does he know that they need a shmira meula? And therefore, according to him, even though you did a shmira pechuta, which means a lesser, right, a less type of a shmira, you're going to be chayav. Why? How do you know that? So Kasavar, he holds stam shvarim not bechizkat shimur kaime. He comes and he says, a stam shor is not bechizkat shimur, meaning that at the end of the day, it's not kept at all, right? That means they just come and they just leave them free.
Not
right?
even fenced in?
Yeah, nothing. So Amar Achmana, the Torah comes and says, Tam nechayev tinibai l'shmira pechuta. The time you're going to be chayav because you need at least minimum of shmira pechuta. Hadar Amar Achmana, then the Torah says, Velo yishmerenu legabe muad. What does it mean? That you didn't watch it by a muad. Tinibai l'shmira meula, that you need a shmira meula. V'yalif negicha lenegicha, right? That means we're going to learn a gzera shava negicha by a tam to negicha to a muad. It says, right? It says the word, right? Yigach. Yigach means to gore. So since it's written by goring by a tam and it's written goring by a muad, so therefore I'm learning a gzera shava that whenever we need the shmira, just like by a muad, you need a shmira meula, which means a higher superior type of a watching. So too by a tam, you also need a superior type of a watching. That's what we're learning from the gzera shava. So one more time, stam shor, you never watch over. Okay, that's going to be number one. Stam shor, you never watch over. What happens is by a muad, it says you need the right, which means that when it says by the tam, you're going to be chayav. Why are you going to be chayav by a tam? Because you need minimum shmira pechuta. Then it says by a muad v'lo yishmerenu, which means that you need shmira meula, superior one. Now, since you have a gzera shava, so therefore you learn that the tam and the muad, they both need superior.
But isn't a stam shore
Now, according to Rabbi Yehuda Savar, Rabbi Yehuda holds stam shvarim b'chizkat shimur kaimi. He says no, people don't just stam, leave the ox just running wild. They have a type of a minimum. I don't know how they have a fence. They have something. They do have something. So Amar Achmana, when the Torah comes and it says tam neshalem, that the tam pays, right? Tinibai l'shmira meula. It's already mashma that it already needs by a tam a shmira meula because you already did a shmira. right, pechuta by this animal. Then the Torah says lo yishmerenu by a muad, that you need a shmira meula. So it's havi ribui achar ribui. It's like an inclusion after an inclusion. The end ribui achar ribui, when you don't have an inclusion after an inclusion or amplification after an amplification, elama'et, only to exclude. Okay, so mieta katuv shmira meula. So therefore, it's coming and saying that you don't need a shmira meula. Right, you're limiting it. It's a limitation. The chitei mana. If you're going to tell me now, right? He comes and he says, if you're going to tell me now,
regarding the modocs.
He comes and he says, "Vechitim." Now you're going to tell me now, negicha letam, negicha lemuad, that there's a negicha for tam and negicha for muad. Hamiet rachmana velo yishmerenu lezeh velo laacher. He comes and he says, one second, but we have a problem over here. The problem is that it's, you don't have it, not for this one, not for the other one, which means at the end of the day, one more time, he wants to say, what's the starting point? The starting point already is a shmira pechuta, a low-level security, right? Comes by the tam and tells you that you need a high-level security. When it says by a muad also that you need a high-level security, because you did it, so therefore it's an inclusion after inclusion. So if it's coming to limit. So therefore, what are we saying then, right? So if it's coming to exclude, obviously it comes out that even though a tam needs a shmira meula, right? But that was from the first one. The second one comes and he says no. That since by a muad you need a shmira meula, you don't need a shmira meula by a tam. So it's coming to limit it. Now, if you're going to tell me you have a gzera shava, negicha, right? He says, yeah, but the Torah already excluded, and when it says velo yishmerenu, it means for the muad and not for a tam. So says the Gemara, fine, but v'haimi ba'ele lelav. He says, one second, but the Torah needs it for a lav, for no, for negative. What does it mean for a negative? He comes and he says like this: when you come and you say, if you did not watch it over, you're going to be chayav. So therefore, you want to come and you want to do a ribui after a ribui. He comes and he says, L'maaseh, you needed to write it. So therefore, how could I come to, meaning like this? If I come and I say, it's like a negative commandment that you did not do something. So therefore, it's not considered an inclusion, not inclusion, how do you say amplification? It's not considered amplification after amplification because you needed it. So therefore, it's not extra to come and say it's an amplification after amplification. No, you needed this to tell you that you did not do something. It's a love. So therefore, once you do that, I cannot come and say it's an application, and therefore it's coming to limit, and the limitation is to bring down a tam. You cannot do that. Meaning like this: when do you use a concept of amplification after amplification? When you have something extra, and then again I say something extra. So I come and I say, hey, I'm amplifying it, and but if I needed that, I'm not amplifying it. I needed that. So you cannot say it's an amplification. So therefore, what are you coming and trying to tell me? That the extra amplification by the muad teaches you that by a tam you do not need a shmira meula. That's incorrect. I needed that amplification by the muad, and therefore I cannot learn anything to the tam. So what are you talking about then? So if so, nichtov rachmana velo yishmor. The Torah says, why didn't it say velo yishmor? My velo yishmerenu. What does it mean velo yishmerenu? Lezeh velo leacher. He comes and he says, I don't want you to watch it for this, but not for something else. Yeah, I don't want you to watch it for this, but not for something else. What does that mean? He comes and he says like this: when it says velo yishmerenu, it's adding in. It doesn't say lo yishmor. It says lo yishmerenu. What is the nu? It is this one, right? And not the muad and not the tam. Right? That's what we're trying to say. It's the muad and it's not the tam. So therefore, that's why we're trying to actually come and say that the short tam is not learned from a gzera shava, but rather that the tam still needs a shmira meula. And that's what we're trying to actually say from here. Okay? So Tanya, we learned in a Braita then. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, and Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says, Hechal tam vechal muad, whether it's a tam or a muad, that you watched it the minimal amount, you're going to be patur. That is the shita of Rabbi Eliezer. My tam, what's the reason of Rabbi Eliezer now? We understood Rabbi Yehuda, we understood Rabbi Meir. What's the reason of Rabbi Eliezer? So he says, my tama, he holds like Rabbi Yehuda. Daman muad b'shmira pechuta sagile. That he holds that muad, right? That also all you need is a shmira pechuta. V'yalif negicha letam negicha lemuad, and he learns a negicha for a tam and negicha for muad gzera shava, which means that he comes and he says that all you need is a shmira pechuta by everything. That's all that you need. Meaning he's learning that since you need a shmira pechuta from the muad, and you're learning gzera shava from the tam to the muad, so therefore you need shmira pechuta from everything. And therefore that's all you need. You don't need a shmira meula. Shmira meula means a superior watching. According to Shitat Eliezer, since the amplification already told you that you don't need a shmina meula, shmina pechuta, and since we learned the shmina pechuta by the muad, not by the tam, and we have a gzira shava by the muad and the tam together, the same halachot apply to both. So for since you had the ribuya chara ribuya, amplification, and you already told me that the stam shor is already watched over, and then you told me that a tam has to be a higher level, and then you also said that a muad has to be a higher level, amplification after amplification, now you're telling me that you don't need a higher level, you need a lower level, and since you have a gzira shava by a tam and a muad, so I apply both halachot together, so it comes out that I only need a shmira pechuta, inferior level by both the tam and the muad. That's what he comes and says. Tam and the muad. That is shitat Rabbi Eliezer.
Wow.
Okay? So Amar Ravada Barava, says Ravada Barava, lo patar Rabbi Yehuda, ela mitzad ha'adaha shebo, aval tzad tamut bimkom ha'emet. Says one second. He comes and he says, I don't understand. When comes Rabbi Yehuda and he says that the muad needs a shmira pechuta, he's only just talking about the half of the extra nezek. But the tzad of the tam, you still have to pay. Meaning like this, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says, patur. What did you understand when it says patur? I understood that when it says patur, it means exactly, completely.
We did this last week.
Exactly, we did this last week. He says completely. He's coming and says, he never said that. When he says that it's exempt, he's only exempt in the part of the muad. But in the part of the tam, he's still chayav. So therefore, what are you talking about then? Right? So Amar Rav comes and he says, and that's why he says that you're still going to be chayav, at least the minimum of the half a nezek. So Amar Rav comes now and he says, Muad lekeren yamin, and muad lekeren smol.
He disagrees with Abba.
Yes, and he actually comes and he says that even though right now, for example, let's say he comes and he gores with the right horn, so he's not going to be a muad for the left horn. Meaning that the way of even the goring is going to be different. Okay, Amri, they said, Aliba Deman, who's this going like? Who holds such a thing? Aliba de Rabbi Meir, if you're going to tell me it's Rabbi Meir, Hamar, he said, he says you always need a shmira meula, a superior type of a protection. And if you're going to tell me then, right, that means according to him, there's no difference between what type of a horn. What is a muad? I don't care. Now, if it's going according to Rabbi Yehuda, that he says, right, that a tam needs a shmira meula, and a muad is a shmira pechuta. Because you remember, we said that the amplification teaches you that the muad needs an inferior one, and the tam needs a superior one, which we said that it doesn't make sense, the logic, but it was because it's an amplification after amplification. It's right. It's not logic. It's coming from the pasuk. Right? Now, if it's according to Rabbi Yehuda that he says that a muad needs an inferior type of a protection and a tam needs a superior type of protection, he says, Ma'idya keren small, what do I care about the left horn? Even keren yamin namit be tzad tamut, it still is a tam. Remember, we just said that even though we're talking about now the payments, but at the end of the day, you still have the tam in its own place, which means that at the end of the day, it's still a tam, and a tam, he would have been chayav mitzad the tam. So Amri, so we said Leolam really bemet, it's going like Rabbi Yehuda. Velo sfile de Ravada Barava, he doesn't hold like Ravada Barava that he's going to be patur legamre. Behachi kamar. This is what it means to say. Ki agavna hu demishkachat mei. When we're talking about in such a case, we're tzad tamut umuedet. When we're talking about a shmira, that it's going to be a tam and it's going to be a muad, which means that if you came and you watched it over shmira pechuta and it gored with a keren yamin, it's going to be patur legamre. It's going to be 100% patur. Now, if it damages with the left one, it's going to pay chetzi nezek. Aval, however, though, muad legamre, when it's going to be muad legamre, lo mashkacha betzad tamut klal. So it's not going to it's not going to have a tamut at all. It's not going to be tam at all. Right? We just went on Memvav Mudalef, the 2 dots. Okay? And therefore, what happens is, in such a case, that's what he's trying to say. He's trying to say, he holds like Rabbi Yehuda. Right? Now, 1 second, but still there will be a Stiran Rabbi Yehuda, because in Shitat Rabbi Yehuda, what's the difference between right and left? At the end of the day, it's still a tam, and mitzad the tam, you still have a problem. So he comes and he says, no, it means like this. It says we're talking about a case where the same shor still has a tzad tam and it's a muad. What does that mean? To do the shmirah, if you came and you watched it a lesser, right, an inferior type of a watching, and it damages with the keren yamin, it's going to be patur legamre, just like a muad. But if it damaged with the left one, you're going to have to pay a chetzi nezek like a tam. Because one more time, according to Rabbi Yehuda, a muad, do you need an inferior or superior type of a protection?
I would say superior.
No, we said the Rabbi Yehuda was the opposite. You remember? The inferior. So for you watched it inferior. So if it's right now muad and it always goes with its right horn, and you did an inferior one and it goes and it gores with its right horn, are you going to be chayav or patur? You're patur. Why are you patur? You watched it. And since you watched it, there shouldn't be a problem.
Doesn't make much
right?
sense.
But one second was because you watched it, right? But if it gores with the left one, now it's a tam. So it comes out that it's going to be chayav. Why is it going to be chayav? Because you actually gored with the left thing. So therefore he comes and he says, so therefore it's going to be the logic. The logic doesn't make sense, but that's the way that it is.
That's why I said the Sivara, I have to say that.
100%. Fine, let's just finish the perek. We're going to finish the chapter, okay? We're on Bava Kamma daf, we're going to finish the chapter. Says the Mishnah. Rabbi Eliezer says, remember, according to Rabbi Eliezer, the only way to finish is to kill it. That's all, the knife. That's the only thing that you can do here. Amar Rabba. Rabba says, "My Tamar Rabbi Eliezer." What's the reason Rabbi Eliezer? Tamar the pasuk says, "V'lo yishmerenu." What does it mean, "V'lo yishmerenu"? Shuv elo shmira lezeh. When it says "V'lo yishmerenu" in the future, it means you cannot watch over it. It means that there's no such thing as a watching over. This animal, you cannot watch over it. That's what he's learning. The pshat, the pasuk. So Amar Abaye says, "Elamiatas." 1 second. When it says by a board, right, that you dug a board, and it says there, "Dichtiv v'lo yichasenu," you didn't cover it in the future. So Nami, does that mean that there's no such thing as covering it in the future? That means basically the only way to do it is basically putting an earth in it, and you cannot cover it. That's what it means. If you're learning the pshat, velo yishmerenu means, right, that you cannot come in. So just like over there means that you cannot do anything other than this. So the same thing over here. What's going on then? Okay. So he comes and he says, right. So what are we talking about then? So he comes and he says, right. So he comes and he says like this. He says, if you're going to tell me this is in achinami, this is the case. But now we learned in the Mishnah, kisau karaui, if you covered it properly, and now it falls inside of it, a shor or a chamor, and then it dies. So you're going to be patur? Right, that's what you're going to tell me? Right, why? Now you're going to tell me behemet. So why does the Mishnah say the opposite? The Mishnah says that if the balabor covered it, and now it comes and falls inside, you're going to be patur. Why are you going to be patur? If you're learning the pshat of velo yichasenu, that you cannot cover, it means that there's no way out of it other than to completely fill it up with sand, with dirt, right? So why are you going to be patur? You should be chayav. Just like velo yishmerenu means that the only way to get out of it is killing it. So velo yichasenu, which means you cannot cover it, means that the only way to get out of it is not with a regular cover. You have to fill it up. So why are you going to be patur? But rather Rabbi says, the reason Rabbi Eliezer is the time we went to the Braita. Rabbi Natan says, how do we know the person should not have a bad dog in his house? And he should not come and have a ladder which is like crooked, which is like a not stable ladder in his house. The Torah says you should not place blood in your house. What does that mean? So when the Torah comes and it says it means that you shouldn't have it there at all. Why? Because we do not want that you should have a michshol, a stumbling block.
Right.
We don't want you to have a bad dog. Yeah. We don't want you to have a thing. So because of that, that's why we don't want it.